I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next, the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am talking with Steve Austin, who, if you know, you probably know as the frontman for long-running experimental extreme metal project Today is the Day, one of my favorite bands, incidentally. But the main topic that I am talking with Steve about is his solo album, Marked Cards and Loaded Dice, which came out just last Friday on his own Supernova Records. Steve Austin, not only frontman for, in my opinion, one of the most daring and creative musical projects of the past 30 years, but also outlaw country bluegrass singer and musician. And it might seem like a major jump, and it is a jump in terms of styles if you are just used to Today's the Day. But as you may be aware, this is the music that Steve Austin grew up with. So it's, from his point of view, definitely not something that's coming out of the blue, but rather something that's had a big influence and impact and importance for him throughout his life. And I think the record sounds great. I am no expert on country music, but I love the sound of it. I love the songs. Yeah, it's a million miles away from Today is the Day, but it is, from my point of view, equally delightful to listen to. And that's the conversation. Today is the Day will come up, but this is, yeah, a different side of Steve Austin. And it was great for me to get the opportunity to have this conversation. I mean, the first time that I spoke to Steve Austin, I was so excited. And it's kind of a trip that this is now 4 times that I've spoken with him. But yeah, I'm very grateful. Marked Cards and Loaded Dice is available on CD. It's available on vinyl. You can get it digitally, of course. You will see various links in the description. If you are not already in possession of this album, I do recommend that you check it out. I will play a little clip from one of the tracks in just a moment, and then hand over to the man himself, Mr. Steve Austin. You can follow me at Tom Osman Sounds. You can go to my website, tomosmansounds.com, where it is rather overdue for me to put some updates. And that's that. So, Steve Austin, not just frontman of Today's the Day, not just label owner of Supernova Records, but also country singer and creator of Marked Cards and Loaded Dice. Take it away.
I stand at the gallows for what I have done. Time is a prison that locks out the sun. The truth is a lie, and I wonder why. Am I just crazy? Hey, let me get you on here.
Hi. Oh, I've got you in a different location.
Yeah. You're in my living room, or actually, you're in part of the live room and part of the living room.
Ah, cool. You're looking very dapper as well.
Oh, well, I got to do my best if I'm going to do an interview with Tom Osman.
You're too kind. So is this guitar that you're holding in your hand a guitar that you played for Marked Cards and Loaded Dice?
Yeah, it's one of them. I used this one and two others to do the album. This one's a Martin D18, and it's made out of mahogany. And the other two I have are D28s, and they're made out of rosewood. And so they have two different sounds. This one is a little less bluegrassy sounding than the other two, but this one has got some real big clarity to the sound of it, and it's still like a bluegrass guitar that many people use or whatever. But I between the two, I kind of prefer the sound of D28s more than D18s, but it's like a game of inches.
Yeah. Do you have them all tuned the same?
Yeah, no, I play all the country stuff in standard tuning and whatnot.
And how, obviously, you've done lots of different recordings over the years, not just Today is the Day, but a bunch of other bands. But I don't know how much you've sort of honed in on recording and producing acoustic instruments before.
A lot, actually. In fact, part of what gave me the resurgence of diving deep back into my acoustic world and old school country was because where I live at up here, there are tons and tons of like traditional Irish folk and Celtic performers, a lot of straight up folk performers, and the studio started getting like lots and lots of people coming in doing acoustic based music, and it was really awesome. It was such a change of pace because obviously I'm used to hearing super heavy distorted jams and whatnot. Besides in my own private time, because I've always played country music since I was a little kid. I just didn't play it in my band Today Is the Day because the point of that band is like to create experimental, like brand new kind of music that deals in heaviness, you know. And I've implemented acoustics throughout the years on the Today Is the Day songs and whatnot a lot because I love them. But yeah, it's funny because a lot of the people that came here were these dudes that had been playing Irish Celtic folk and like folk music that were super talented at it. And I was like, wow, like, you know, this is pretty powerful. And it puts the focus more on like your playing and your singing and talent wise as far as songwriting, where there's not much to hide behind like distortion or loudness or whatever else, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the first time that we spoke, which was a couple of years ago when you'd started working on marked cards and loaded dice, I don't know if you remember, but you recommended for me to watch a documentary, Heartworn Highways.
Heartworn highways, yeah.
And I did get round to watching it, and I thought it was great. And I thought some of the, like, there were particular performances that really stood out to me. And I was thinking, it reminded me when you were talking about people coming into the studio then, because I was thinking, Heartworn Highways is a great example of how some performances can be incredibly intense without being, you know, heavy, so to speak. Like
Right.
heaviness can come in a lot of different ways. Like I really like Guy Clark was one of my favorites. I love his performances. He's got like a great flow in his vocals. I'd never heard him singing before I watched that.
He does. He's got a very smooth way, and his lyrical writing style is it's very colorful as far as being able to see the picture that he's talking about, you know. Um, I love him. I mean, I probably out of all the guys in that I connect with the most, it would definitely be Towns Van Zandt, and it's because of I've read a lot of background information on him and his childhood and growing up and all that, and it's weird. We have a lot of parallels of things that we grew up with, and I feel like if I would have met him it would have been one of those uncanny moments where you're meeting somebody that sort of have lived a lot of the same life experiences as you know. And then, you know, I love one of my favorites from that documentary is David Allan Coe when he's sitting on the bed or on the floor or whatever. I love that song. Like I actually play that song live and whatnot. It's called I Still Sing the Old Songs.
Cool. Yeah.
That one's killer. I mean, all those guys, you know, show you, you know, it's a thing. It's like, you know, when you're expressing anger or frustration and depression, you know, obviously the first thing that comes to mind, especially if you're a rocker or a young person or whatever, you know, is to let it out, you know, through intense aggression, through volume and distortion and screaming and everything. And I love doing all those things. It absolutely turns me on. But like, as far as like trying to challenge myself and put myself through different paces, you know, you think about it back in the 1950s, 1940s, there were still guys down on their luck, having a hard life and depressed and angry and every other thing. And they played music and they played in bands. And they didn't have technology wise at that time. There wasn't any such thing as a Marshall stack or like really distortion per se commonly used. And then if you want to break it down even further, to me, I take it back to like the days of like the Dust Bowl in the United States in the Depression era, and people had nothing at all, and if they were lucky enough to have like a little old guitar or whatever, they'd sit down and write these songs about what they're going through and living their life. And because people didn't have any money, they didn't have any entertainment either. And so like if your buddy Fred that lives down the road, maybe everybody's going to get together at like 7 o'clock around a bonfire, and he's sitting there singing songs that all the people could relate to because he's living the same experience as them. Um, that to me is the primal beginning of like I guess heavy music in a lot of ways, and like the primal beginning later too of like rock and roll, and what I was talking about, how like dudes in the 50s and 40s, they were just as wild as people today, but they had different tools to do it with. And so I really love it, both because of the sound of it and because of just the challenge of doing it. And the album in my configuration of like my band and like the recording is there's no electric guitars. It's only Martin acoustic guitars, played real hard, and then like electric bass and then drums. And I was going to do a stand-up bass with the idea of this, but my idea of what I play is not necessarily tied to like any particular time period. And so like just as much as I love the King, which is Hank Williams Sr., I love 70s outlaw country music, like the band The Outlaws, which was Waylon Willie and Jesse Coulter and Tom Paul Glazer. And then I love like, George Jones and Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Blaze Foley. But most of those dudes that I just named, part of their sound from the 70s had that electric bass going on in it. And it made the band have a sort of a bigger sound. I wouldn't say a rock element because that's not why I like it. It's more like I like it just because it fills up the sound a lot more than a stand-up bass that just
Mm.
goes off after you pluck the strings.
Yep.
And as far as that goes, I even dig, I dig Southern rock shit too, as far as like Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers Band, uh,
Mm.
even freaking Molly Hatchet or whatever, from back then. I had Southern Fried Rock when I was probably 10 years old. It was a compilation album that this company called K-Tel put out, and it was called Southern Fried Rock with a big old egg on the front cover. And it had, the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, 38 Special, Molly Hatchet, all this shit on, and it was awesome, and on the electric side of things. But for me, I tell you, like, I feel like when we're rocking live with my buddy that plays rhythm acoustic with me, so it's two acoustics, electric bass, and drums. I feel like the energy level and the rip your soul out sadness, heaviness of it part is almost like even more affecting to me in a way because everything's so freaking crystal clear or
Yeah.
whatever with the sound. You can really understand what's going on and the voice and all that. So I love it. It's when I'm not working or when I'm not like playing with today's day or whatever, pretty much that's all I listen to. And I'd say the other thing in my long-winded reply here is that I think another thing that moves me too is like the way the Beatles intertwined like these folk elements and different things in some of those albums, like the White Album and Revolver and stuff like that. And luckily for me, the fiddle player that I asked to play on this, she's a concert trained violinist, and she is a virtuoso. And so when she went to go approach these songs, I just like anybody I jam with, I was like, hey, whatever you think sounds cool to it. I just love the way you play. So you just take it from there. And a lot of parts that she played brought a like a psychedelic element big time to the songs that was already in there, but I think that it accentuates it because sometimes some of the stuff she's playing almost sounds like she's playing stuff backwards and like just different ways of doing it. And in the end, I love the album because I feel like it represented what I wanted it to. It's got a lot of philosophies of the way back to Appalachian times and like Hank Williams Sr., the beginning of it. But then also it's got more like the dirty element of like the 1970s with Skinner and the Outlaws and all that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, well, I was pretty blown away when I listened to the final finished album. I was like, oh, this is like a real country album. Like it sounds totally authentic, and the sound of it as well. I love the way that you've recorded it. It just has a really satisfying sound to it.
Man, Tom, thank you so much, man, because as you know, with me being a dude who makes records and whatnot and has been for a long time, I've approached every different kind of production you can think of. And from the very beginning, when I did this, it's not very different in my mindset that I would do even with Today is the Day, but like I really appreciate the super warm and like thick recordings that came from like the late 60s and the 1970s, like albums like Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd and the White Album. Those recordings, again, there's not really a lot of like there's special effects obviously within Pink Floyd and like the Beatles and stuff like that. But when you're talking about the core instruments, like the drums, the bass, guitar, and the vocals, it's all like based on realism to make it sound like as real as it can. And so, I already owned a bunch of equipment like this, the majority of it, but just to make sure that that kind of classic sound that was the same as if I would have walked in a studio in like 1970. I ended up picking up a couple other microphones and a few other specialty tools that are like old Neumann tube mics and in the end, I just wanted it to sound as real as possible. And the proof in the pudding for me of making me happy was when we went to go shoot the video for this one that's coming out soon called The Rain Keeps Coming Down. We listened to the song before we went to shoot the video, and I'm thinking like, damn, it's probably going to be pretty hard to sound live exactly like that, or pretty because this sounds pretty wild through the PA. And so we listened to the song one time through, and then Bro clicked off the song, and we started playing, and it fucking freaked me out because I was like, holy shit, like it sounds like exactly the same as this. And so that was a real satisfying experience. Like anything, I would have probably kept working on it 10 more years just to try to make it the very best I can for myself and for the fans. But I feel like that after 5 long years of really caring about it and digging deep into it, I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I think these are the songs and this is the way they're supposed to be. And it doesn't have that super glossy, crazy, commercialized type of production that a lot of country music these days has. And I'm glad about that because we didn't play to a click. I didn't line the drums up to a grid. I didn't copy paste anything. I mean, it's about as real of a recording as you can get as far as the playing. It's everybody
Yeah.
just played their stuff. If somebody made a boo boo, we had to punch in, big deal. That's like normal or whatever. But, again, in my philosophy of what I like real records played by real people and not a lot of like studio gimmickry to get some perfection kind of sound because it's not about selling records. It's about making people feel something
Yeah.
inside and emoting what you're feeling, you know?
Yeah. I've had this conversation with people before that years ago when I was making music with a friend of mine, we got locked into this sort of trap where we'd be coming up with music and then we wouldn't practice it enough. We just like, oh, let's just record some stuff. And then we'd start fucking around with stuff afterwards and like, cutting and pasting things. And it just
Yep.
ultimately ended up with something very artificial sounding. And it made me realize that if you have a great performance at the beginning, it's like you get loads of stuff that's recorded in very DIY or raw ways, but the performances can stand out. Whereas if you don't have the performance in the beginning, then no amount of studio trickery really can like capture that. It's going to sound somehow like it's missing something.
Yeah, there's a difference between accuracy and emotional power. Um, it's like I say this all the time. We are right now as people, we're a lot like the monkeys at the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey when it comes to technology and the application of it within like recording and stuff like that. And I say that because, um, as you know, in 2001, the monkey discovers the thigh bone or a femur of a dead animal, and he puts two and two together, and the first thing he thinks of is like smashing a skull, and it's just raw primal. And I think, with digital recording, I've seen this ever since I began recording in digital, like around like the late 90s or early 2000s, of just that, people know that you can cut and paste. They know that you can copy paste parts in. They know that you can straighten out the timing. They know that you can straighten out the tuning on the vocals. And that's great as a tool if it's used in a wise way, sparingly, if not at all. And instead, just like the monkeys that don't know what to do with these wonderful, cool things we've got, people start kind of getting their head wrapped around that the whole thing about recording is recording itself, like all the processes and editing and all this, when the real reality of it is it wouldn't matter if you recorded shit on a cassette deck or whatever it is. If it's a powerful performance that makes you feel something, even if it's not musically perfect, it doesn't fucking matter because you're trying to take a snapshot of an experience of a moment. And I just feel like that going over shit a million times, tearing it apart, building Frankenstein songs and all this stuff. A lot of times when people say like, "Gee, I don't understand what's lost from music these days," it's like, and I think what it is that in the pursuit of money, the bar kind of got set with this like, we must have synthetic drums and we must line it to a grid and we must auto tune everything and everything must be chop 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 chop, or we're not going to be able to compete with everybody else. And then you ended up with this army of generic sounding albums that don't exude any emotion and don't make you feel anything. And after a couple of tunes, you might want to like change the channel or switch it off or go to something else just because there really isn't anything happening there for you other than a perfected sounding recording that an engineer is responsible for, not the person that was living through whatever it was that made them write the songs.
Yeah, no, very, very true. On the topic still of the recording side of things. So one of the things that stands out to me on the album is your voice, which sounds great. And for
Oh,
anyone that's a fan of Today Is the Day, you do all these different things with your voice on the different records. And obviously there are certain tracks, like there's a couple on oh shit, I've forgotten the name of it now. The one that came out in 2011, Pain is a Warning. You
Yeah,
had
like
like
this is you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then you had one or two tracks on Animal Mother as well, like Outlaw, that you had an acoustic version of, where you're singing in a more hushed way. But how did the recording of the vocals for this and what you just the approach to the vocals compare to what you've done before for yourself?
Well, it's weird because the mic I picked to do this with was a really super rare microphone. It was a prototype, one of the first 50 Neumann U87s made back in 1968. And the characteristic about the mic, besides the time period being correct of what I wanted, was that this mic is unforgivably realism. Like, I mean, it doesn't add anything to your voice and it doesn't subtract anything either. But what it does do, it's like the equivalent of like one of those Richard Avedon photos that's like ultra freaking stark black and white picture where you literally feel like you're looking right at the person in person. And so at first, when I went to go do this, um, I was really nervous a little bit, and it was because the ugliness of different sounds and the some of the just I felt like every little thing that I did would stick out to me of like inflections in my voice or like the way I would hit something. And I had to get over it because, the bottom line was I'm me and I've got this weird, in my opinion, I've always felt I have kind of a weird voice or whatever. And so, I had to kind of just get over it and just be like, all right, let's focus on the emotion of what we're trying to convey here and just put my heart and soul in it when I do it. And at the time period of when them songs were recorded, I was going through a pretty massive depression at the time and just no joy or no hope in sight. It just seemed like everything had been flushed down the toilet with COVID and isolation and loneliness of fucking just, even though I had my family here, it's like each individual was kind of trying to figure this out on their own too. So it's like, and I'm the dad and the leader of the family, and I'm trying to keep a chin up and make sure that everybody, isn't like feeling it too hard, but privately inside, after everybody go to bed or whatever else, I'd be up at night with my face in my hands, just, worried to fucking death about what's going to happen and what's going to happen to my kids and my woman and all this. And so it's like once those songs were written and I would go to go sing them, it's embarrassing to say, but like the subject matter of the songs and the tone of voice that I'd be hitting would involuntarily make me start like having tears come up in my eyes or just make me kind of start crying. And it would fucking piss me off because I'd be in the middle of like doing something. I'd be, trying to do something and whatnot. But it would overwhelm me because it just seemed like I had nothing else. Like it's like there was this feeling and a determination of like, I'm going to get this shit out there that I've been feeling because it means deeply to me a lot. And I don't know or care if anybody else in the world loves it, likes it, or anything else. But for me, it was freedom and it was an escape to like work on these songs and to try to understand like what I was feeling. So yeah, no, I feel like recording the vocals was a pretty emotional experience, and a little bit of experimentation here and there at times to try to find harmonies and things like that that would make the vocals sound big at the moments that I want them to be, you know. But yeah, it's like looking in the mirror, and I don't
Mm.
like looking in the mirror. So it makes me uncomfortable a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand. I spend like, because I'm doing podcast episodes every week, I spend so much time looking at my face and seeing all my mannerisms as I edit episodes. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm doing that thing again that I'm now so familiar with.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's a trip, man. I'm a work in progress all the time. I just try to take care of myself and get down the road. But, it's like I've never been one to really. I probably have a massive case of low self-esteem, I think, that I've carried with me throughout my whole life, just not really feeling good enough. Nothing I do is good enough. And in my mind, I'm just trying. The commitment I have is not to give up and just keep trying and do it the best I can. And if I ever hit the mark, then I'm overachieving. And most of the time, I'm just my own worst critic, trying to play better, sing better, write better, perform better.
It was a fascinating insight you gave about the context that the songs came out of, because I was thinking, listening to the album, some of the music is quite, and maybe this is just sort of a feature of bluegrass and country in general. Some of it's quite kind of breezy and like almost
Uplifting.
kind of, yeah, uplifting and jaunty. But then there are certain songs like "The Rain Keeps Coming Down." The music's quite breezy, but when you listen to the lyrics, it's like it's really really heavy. So I think that actually adds to the emotional power of it. The fact that you do have quite a range of emotions in it, and sometimes it can be fun, but sometimes it can be really heavy as well, and that's quite kind of authentically human.
Yeah, I think what happened there is that a lot of the first ones that I wrote was when I was trying to figure it out, like life and whatnot. And part of my journey through that was a huge further realization of gratitude about a lot of different things. A gratitude about love, gratitude about my family, gratitude about my sons, gratitude about my fans and friends. Um, and instead of feeling like dying, I just all of a sudden started to see things a little bit differently, and to make my own self happy, I bust into like some other kind of jam that is more like on I don't know, like you're alive or something, like oh Lord, I'm coming home. It's there's a certain comedy in it a little bit to me because it's like me reliving through being a young boy on the farm. And I got two mules and an old broke plow. I ain't got money, but I got know how, oh Lord. It's like stuff that makes me happy, you know what I mean? And so it is a balance. There's a lot of things that are drudged in darkness, but then there's these other moments of what I would say our victory where the sun does come up shining, and it comes up in a way within all the rest of those songs that I guess it's just like kind of a diary of human existence a little bit.
Yeah. One incidental thought that I had listening to this album, I thought, I wonder if I'll be the first person to make this connection. I've never thought before to compare your music or talk about your music in the same breath as Ween. But for the first time listening to this album, particularly with Lovin' to Do, I was like, this makes me think a little bit of that Ween album, 12 Country Greats, because they also, they approached that very sincerely and authentically. It wasn't like a parody album. They went,
Right.
we love country music, we're going to make a country record. So it's kind of interesting to me that Ween, from a very, very different area of music, but also very experimental, very playful with different styles. And Today Is the Day, from a totally different musical world, but also very experimental with sounds, that you end up actually having this kind of overlapping spot in country music.
Yeah, that song too, man. That song to me is like a punk rock song. Like it's like me and Colin, we had recorded a whole bunch of the songs that are on the album and others that I recorded that were pieces that I wrote. We cut a lot of music, and we were in a break and we were chilling out. And then I just had an idea in my head and I was like, hey man, jam with me on this. And like, I'll record while we do it. And so I busted that out and started playing and, playing as fast as I can. And then he is, a very versatile drummer. He loves like old school bluegrass and Appalachian music, but he also, loves like all kinds of shit, like as far as hardcore and punk rock and metal and so like when I started jamming that, he locked right in with like the kind of beat that I was hoping he would. And that's another one of them that I wouldn't call it necessarily a happy song, but it's kind of like it's just another kind of side of life or whatever that's more on the bright side of things, kind of,
Yeah. Also, as well, with you having mentioned the fiddle playing before, that's got some really standout fiddle playing on it, that track.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you, man, there are different bursts that she does in that record, like on fucking Crazy Dreams, where she'll hold back and do these different things, and then right at these different climactic moments she'll bust out like a 24 note or 27 note run or whatever that's like like and I'm like, wow, like, and it fits like exactly like right there, and my buddy too, that a big huge blessing about the album, and as long as I'm alive I'm always going to ask him to do it, because I am Dana Dana Flood, that played pedal steel on this. He's maybe one of the most remarkable musicians I have ever seen in my life. And like, when you think of pedal steel, you think, it's like a lot of like swaying, like like that. And that man, you could do like a contest with him, almost of like, okay, you never heard this song ever before. I'm gonna play it for you right now and give me your very best. Go. And like the next thing you know, he just like immediately takes the music and starts playing like all these phrases that are complicated and like super fast at times. And like it was just so fucking awesome jamming with him. I sat in the control room with him, and what we would do is I would play the song and sing it on guitar with him, and just me and him jam it like that without him jamming to the recording with the drums and stuff. And I got lost in that. I could have sat there each time we recorded for the entire day and night doing that, because his playing just mesmerized me so much. And he's so authentic. I mean, he plays Emmons pedal steel guitars, which those are like pedal steels designed by Buddy Emmons, who's a legend of pedal steel guitar. And he learned from like Don Helms from Hank Sr. And he was the pedal steel man for Johnny Rodriguez, and they toured with uh, Willie Nelson and George Jones and all this shit. And so he was all in on all of that, like late 60s and 70s outlaw side of things. And but I tell you, as a consummate, there are tech death metal players that couldn't hold his pick. I mean, that dude is sick as hell, like to a scary point. And I'm so thankful, because between him and Ryu, I feel like that they were able to put pedal steel and fiddle to this and do it in a very true way, but with their own style, and kind of giving it a bit of something new to it too. And that
Mm.
was totally what I was looking for.
Is that towards the end of So Far Gone, is that a pedal steel solo?
It is. That's him rocking out on that. I mean, It's blazing. He everything you hear on that, I swear that dude recorded it in one take almost every time. He might once in a while have asked me, "Hey, you know what? Now that I did that one time, back it up and let me do it again." And then I would do that, and then it'd be like, "Okay, that's it." And I'm like, God, you are insane. Like, wow. Like, I mean, I don't know. Hate to gush about it, but I'm around a lot of musicians and players, and I see, from time to time, I see somebody who's really remarkable, and you're like, wow, like that, yeah, like that's another level. And for me, Dana's Dana just got in the top five musician club of all time of anybody I've ever seen play music. Like,
Have you been performing live with this group of players that played on the record?
no, we did one show about a year ago, and it's mostly because the production of the album had continuously been going on through this up here in Maine. Um, just because I like to practice my craft, I go out all the time, and I just go out and do like unknown open mic things of just going in and then play a bunch of my songs, watch the other guys that come in to play or whatever and stuff, have a good time, and then hit it back home. And, you know, I love doing it. I will say I love doing just me and the guitar, but like for me, the real rocking experience is with all of them. Like
Yeah.
it makes it a real big thing sonically, like pet sounds or something like when it's all going on.
That's a very fascinating insight about going out and doing open mics. Because I was wondering already, listening to the album, because it does sound so authentically like a country record, and there's no reason why anyone would listen to it and go, oh, the singer's from an extreme metal band. Like, I imagine at this point, there'll be a bunch of people that have no idea about Today is the Day that are hearing you playing this music.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I don't it's not because of a reason or anything. All these are natural things of mine. But like if you go in my house, there's not there's not one thing in here that's got Today is the Day on it, or an album cover, or a poster, or a picture. I didn't like, again, I didn't consciously sit down and think about this or anything. It's just the way it worked out. And maybe part of the reason why that is like that is because I don't live in the past, and I don't feel like going over your accomplishments or things that you've done is necessarily very helpful to you as an artist, because you're only as good as you are right this minute, and tomorrow what you did yesterday you can't get back or take back or anything like that. And so it, for me, I guess maybe subliminally it pushes me to not have an ego or not think about anything that I've done, meaning I'm a hungry musician. I'm a person trying to play music and whatnot, and I don't get off on showing everybody who I am or anything. And like in my town, I don't tell anybody about, like literally it's like an undercover thing. I don't want anybody to know about what I do, as in playing with Today is the Day, or my musical career. And the rare times that somebody finds out about it, it's a little awkward for me at times. Like there's a store in town here, the auto parts store. Guys are awesome that work there because I work on cars all the time. And we've always been buds when I go in there. And then one day I was in there, and one of my really good buddies that I work on cars with, he happened to come in there, and then right in the middle of us talking and chatting, throws in about how I go on tour and that I play music and all this shit. And like, and the whole time he's doing it, in my head, I'm going like, don't, don't. please don't say anything. And then, you know, they asked me, and then I told the truth. And then when I told the truth, it clicked with them and they knew who I was. And so now every time I go in there, I'm not just regular old Steve anymore like I used to be. Now I'm Steve that plays music or whatever, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
don't want to be I don't want to be taken for that. I just want to be myself as a person, you know. And it is incidental that yeah, my whole life has been a professional musician pretty much since 25 years old. So I'm going on 44 no 34 years of doing this and whatnot, you know. So I don't know life any other way, I definitely know the separation between me as a performing musician and just as a normal dude that's trying to get through life, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder as well, because in Today is the Day, a lot of that is incredibly intense and, sort of evil and aggressive and all these things. It's like if that's sort of a part of your life and your psyche that you want to keep compartmentalized and just for this one space of your life.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where um it's to me this is probably going to sound crazy to everybody, but like doing something like today's day in a lot of ways is a dangerous thing in a way because um it lets you fully let it go in an aggressive way to like a till death or till I die kind of way. And a lot of the shit that drives me crazy in my life ends up getting expelled during a Today's the Day show. Um, all that fucking hatred and anger and pissed off, feeling ripped off, disenfranchised. You know, it's been a lifetime of me never in the right place at the right time as far as who I am. My parents moved around. I had a southern accent. We move up north. I'm some weirdo outsider. We move back down south. I catch a little northern accent a little bit. Now I'm another weirdo because I don't fit in there. And um, in my own life, because of the way I think and the way I handle and do things, um, it tends to make me be an outsider, I think, because I hate I would say that my biggest fault is being real. I can't help it, and I can't help but give an opinion that's mine and unfiltered. And so like it's funny because with Today's Day, it's such a rage of emotion and unbridled freak out that like, you know, when you're in a flow of a tour or when you're playing when you're doing this every single day and your body gets into a rhythm with it and everything like that, it's almost like you're carrying around a couple 100 pounds of TNT or something because at a moment's notice, if you get to going on it or you were to like let your guard down, you might be fucking scary to somebody when you with how you are, how you're feeling. And throughout my life, you know, earlier on when I didn't have kids and I wasn't married, I enjoyed being a menace to society and anyone around me. I like a wounded animal or something, I would defend myself, uh, you know, to the end over whatever. And so I could probably be scary at times. And you know, you mature and you get a few years under your belt, and you realize how important it is for you to be able to control yourself. Because a man with no self control has got really big problems in life. You've got to control yourself. life's never going to come at you the way you want it to all the time. And people are going to do you wrong. They're going to betray you. They're going to let you down. Um, they're going to hurt you. And, you just got to like be able to have self-control over yourself and your emotions. And thankfully, I have today's day where I walk around with bottled up anger going on inside of me. I mean, all the shit going on in the world. As you know, I'm not a real political person or anything like that, but I don't fucking like war.
Yep.
And I don't like war. I don't I don't like seeing people who don't have anything, who haven't had anything throughout their whole life, get the shaft or have a hard time. And we live in a day and age right now where like this kind of deals with like the title of the album, where you know the deck is stacked against you and the house always wins, and it's disguised really, really well to make you think that you've got a choice and you've got a say in these matters and all this shit. And the truth of the matter is you don't have a say in these matters unless we collectively all come together to make a change. And it's because the big money and the big business and corporations and shit like that, they bought every government on planet Earth. And we are right now seeing a technocracy like being installed around this earth of basically trying to push the poor man down and to elevate those who already have way too much shit in the first place. And it makes me sick. And then
Yeah.
and then I see other things going on with like people dying and killing and warring and all this shit and everything.
And making us fight with each other as well, like making us think that the real enemies are between us and not actually seeing who's kind of keeping us down.
Yeah, because the number one tactic for any kind of tyrannical people to be in charge is just to simply divide your enemies, which is the common people. So you
Yep.
split them in half, have them focused on what's wrong with the other side all the time instead of the most important thing, which is recognizing how we are all the same in a lot of ways. You can think differently than somebody else and have a very polarizing opinion, but if you're a human being that's got guts and a heart, you should be able to understand that everybody is different and everybody has different opinions. And the only way that we get stronger is by trying to understand each other and to work towards one common humanity. But like divide and conquer is the rule that's in place when it comes to the way things are these days. And again, it makes me crazy because it's like it's playing into exactly what the man wants. As
Yeah.
long as we're mad at each other and fight with each other and keep carrying on, the more that they can get away with shit on a daily basis, and we don't even notice it because we live in such a fast-paced society of information exchange
Yeah.
that you could go through one day being happy in the morning, pissed off at noon, happy in the afternoon, pissed off at nighttime, because the swing of everything is just constantly, this agitator, this agitating, this agitating, it just it's nuts, man. I really think that a big way for everybody to wake up and understand is just to get that concept of like mark cards and loaded dice, is that we're all sitting around the table and we're playing the same game. It's just that the dealer, he's got this worked out where no matter how good you are, no matter how good I am, at the end of the day, we're gonna lose because he is not playing a fair game. It's a rigged game. And
Yeah.
um, you know, I don't know. It just that had a lot to do with a lot of the writing of the album and whatnot, because I feel like that I believed a lot of stuff prior to 2020. And a lot of stuff, just things that have been taught to me in school, things that have been taught to me through life, passed down from like the government and other things like that. And I realized like after 2020 and the years following it that there's a whole nother thing going on here that we all haven't really grabbed yet. And for me, it was a really freeing experience because, you keep holding on to that an election is going to change something or, different people are going to change something. But the real truth of the matter is that they're all fucking liars that are getting money in their pocket to sway whichever direction they are. We don't live in a day and age where a man like John F. Kennedy or somebody like that, where that they really have a true sense of obligation and care to do the right thing for all people. It's like it's pretty easy to see that like the formula is people get started in it, money right off the bat in their face. If they did have any morals or ideals about right and wrong, those kind of get bought up right at the beginning, and
Yeah.
they see the path that they can go on. As long as I flow with the direction that they want me to flow in, then I will ascend
Yeah.
financially.
And then you're
And
compromised.
and then you're compromised, and then that's why there's so much outrage because it's one thing for somebody that thinks differently than you to oppose you because you already know the differences between you and somebody else that they've shown you. I think it's more damaging and hurtful, though, for somebody to believe in somebody that they listen to what they have shown them and you take it to heart that that's the way this person is. And then once they get in office of like doing what they're doing, then the mask comes off, and then now you realize you were conned. Like
Yeah.
you wanted to believe, and the person told you what you wanted to hear, and it sounded good at the time. But it's like the proof in the pudding is, well, let's see if you do that once you have the ability to make a change. And
Mm.
all I've seen ever since that wake up call is like, give me a break. Give me a total break. Like, these fucking dudes don't care. It's like,
Yeah.
we're about to hit $40 trillion in debt here in the United States. I mean, I don't give a shit what that $40 trillion was spent on.
Mm.
That screams negligence to the people in the community that live there.
For sure. Absolutely.
Because I don't see the 40 trillion
Yeah.
happen. I don't see a brand new bridge. I don't see a
Yeah.
hospital for underprivileged children. I don't see any of that shit. What I do see though is I see people who start with modest incomes suddenly owning a lot of stuff and then having a persona almost like a rock star,
Mm.
and then no output,
Yeah.
nothing changed. And I think that if there's anything that would make anybody wake up, it would just be that one is like, hey, you know what? We spent 40 fucking trillion dollars. Do you know what $1 trillion is? Like, could you picture in a physical form $40 trillion? Like, and then it's like you take a look around and how many people right now need like a organ transplant or a heart surgery, or a kid that can't see that well could get an eye operation where he'd maybe
Yeah.
get 20% of his sight back, but the operation costs $300,000. See, that's the part that people should get fucking angry about, is called if governments feel like they can spend 40 trillion fucking dollars, and you even have one person homeless on the street, then you're a failure. And if you have any single moms with like a couple kids and they're having a hard time even just getting something to eat, then 40 trillion gone, the government's a failure.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, because I think I often have this conversation with people where I say, governments will come out and they'll say we can't afford to do this, we can't afford to do that, it doesn't fit in our budget. But then something comes along and they go, oh well, suddenly we spend all this money. You go, well, if you spent it there, it must have been possible to spend it. You've just made the decision that you're not going to. But I wonder for you as a dad, for the generation of your sons, within that context, how do you find a way to give them a kind of a positive or an encouraging message about their place in the world and the future?
I try to impress upon them that being self-reliant is the most important thing that they can do. Always be a straight shooter, be self-reliant, n never screw anybody over, ever, 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 and just mainly be able to take care of your own self. That's the one thing that you can do as a person in a world like this today. And don't let hardship hold you back about your dreams and your goals. It's like nobody starts out with giant piles of money in their lap or anything like that. You got to dig out a way to do whatever it is that you want to do. And nobody is going to help you or prop you up and put you there. You got to work for it and you got to earn it, And you know, we as a family, we're a pretty balanced family. We enjoy life, so they see natural things that make you happy, like that doesn't necessarily deal with money, like going swimming or going fishing or cooking out or like sitting around playing songs together or playing music, singing. Me and the boy's mother, she and I get off on more natural life activities and stuff like that than necessarily being like, oh man, we're flying to Puerto Vallarta next month or something. We haven't flown anywhere. Like it's like meaning, and it ain't because we couldn't at times. It's just that, you know, we just don't feel like that we've got to live some kind of life or something to impress anybody about anything. And it isn't like we have. I mean, probably the most impressive thing about our life is more like the simpleness of it, not all the shiny things. And it was just smart decisions that were made about lifestyle, about how we want to live. We don't like living in the city, we like living in the country. So we found a place way, way, way out in the country. We don't like relying on other people. So long, long ago, I learned all these different skills of when you live more like we do and whatnot. If I need to cut up trees, I can swing a chainsaw. If I need to fix cars, I can do that. If we need food, I can go hunting and go get it, or go fishing. If something needs to be fixed or whatever, I can pretty much fix just about anything, whether it be mechanical or electronic or whatever. And and so it's like to me, that's if there is anything that if somebody's going to be impressed by something, I think it'd probably be more something like that than like
Mm,
some physical object or some obvious way of spending money that we don't have.
yeah.
But it's cool. We get away once in a while. Like last October, these guys down in Nashville, this guy named Dan Emery that owns
Oh
a
yeah,
label.
I've interviewed Dan Emery, Black
No,
Metal
him. He
Mastering.
plays in Thatan,
Yeah.
which, by the way, massive Thatan plug. You guys should just go burn your fucking instruments because if you can't keep up with Thatan, which you probably can't, it may be all over for you because Thatan is so brutal and insane. Um, they are one of the most intense bands that I have seen, not only in the last 10 years, But I swear, in the whole time I've been doing this, like there's something about their band that like it's just got the real deal in it as far as like violent, aggressive, heavy music. But he runs a series called the Magnolia Sessions, and they're all like bluegrass, traditional country, older style of country, and the sessions are recorded at his studio in Nashville, outdoors. In the back of his studio, there's a giant magnolia tree that's probably like 4 feet around, and he has a binaural head. A binaural head is the type of microphone that is mounted in like a almost like a mannequin head, and it has two microphones that are mounted where your ear holes are, and it the way it's wired and with the mics like that, it picks up a binaural image, stereo image, kind of replicating the way a normal human hears sound instead of a microphone with only one capsule in it. It's got two, and the way they're oriented too. It's like all perfectly worked out to mimic a human head. And so he records them with that, and it's all live. Like there's no overdubs or anything like that. You play it and that's it. And so me and Hannah hopped a plane and we went down there in October and stayed with Dan down there, and we did a Magnolia session for me. And I brought a couple extra mics with me, 1963 Neumann KM56 for guitar, and that 68 Neumann U87. And then Dan had the binaural head, and it's fucking trippy because like you're in Tennessee and you can hear like crickets and grasshoppers and birds and like all this shit going on when you're doing it, and it's a direct recording, so of course you hear you the most, but the ambience around it is real, like, and that was a challenge that blew my mind, because it once again of like you're just sitting down to do something. It's like getting a tattoo, and you can't make a fucking mistake on either guitar or vocals because it's going to stick out like crazy, but it was really awesome. I love my woman and she was there, and I always involve her in anything I'm doing if I can. And there was a little bench sitting next to where I was sitting, where he had me play. And I saw that bench, and Hannah was, she'll try to stay out of the way, I guess, or whatever. That's her thinking. But I was like, you know what? You should just come over here and like sit right next to me. You can just like sit right there. And I'll tell you, I'll just do this, and and kind of I'll just play this shit for you. And then that way I'll know whether it went good or not, because she never lies. And if I fuck up or whatever, she'll gently but honestly tell me like, or yeah, And so it was really funny, man, 'cause we were out there all mic'd up. I got her sitting over here. I'm throwing down my jams. I got these crickets and birds and all this shit going on. And it was just a really magical experience. And it was kind of cool for me and her too. We just kind of got away and went out into Nashville,
Yeah,
roamed around, had a real good time.
that does sound really cool. On the topic, I'm going to let you get away shortly. On the topic of the forthcoming album, Mark Cards and Loaded Dice. So tell me about how people can get hold of it. It's going to be on vinyl and CD as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to tell everybody about that stuff a little bit. One thing that's really, really cool too, obviously everybody always brings up the vinyl right away, but the CD of this thing, I really am happy as hell about the design and the way this is laid out. I did all the graphics for the whole layout and whatnot, and I wanted it to really give you a sense a visual with the reality type of music that I made of like where I am. So like the photos are candid photos from literally like right here, or walking down the road here. There's a horse farm with cherry trees. Fog comes down and all this stuff gives it this like sort of spooky country kind of looking thing. And so it to get all my pictures in there and graphics that I wanted to, we had to have a pretty lengthy, like 12-page booklet of stuff in this enhanced digipack. And I feel like that CD is it really tells the whole story of the album like really well. It's a just a I guess I'm happy with it because it just did exactly what I wanted to do. It's like it's almost like if I wanted to tell somebody about me, of where I live and who I am, I could just hand that to them and they could like look in it and be like, "Holy shit! Like you must live like way out in the country or something, you know." And like there's other um, type of elements to it with I won't give it up so that you can see it, but there's other imagery too that's in there that I think is just some powerful stuff. The vinyl is killer. It's on like this copper nugget type of color that's a special color.
Yeah, I've never seen a record that looked exactly like that before. It's almost like you've cut into a stone or a tree or something like that with the
Like
effects
a
on it.
redwood tree or something. Yeah, it's funny because they don't even make that color. I don't think they make it anymore, but I liked it a lot. And we asked them if they'd be willing to do that. And in the end, it came out really great. Hannah shot the photos that are like the front cover picture of me and on the back of the record, the converging roads and stuff like that. She's got a really great eye as a photographer in the way that she does things. And so the whole thing is a package. It just came out great. And for the first t-shirt, I didn't want to like just bust out something or whatever because the whole thing is so important to me that much. That luckily a really good friend of mine that's a legendary artist, his name's Tim Lehigh, and Tim is this like just awesome tattoo artist that makes these really wild type of drawings and paintings and tattoos. And I just went to Tim and I just said, "Hey, man, I'm looking for like a killer graphic for the very first T-shirt for this, and you just take it from there, run with it." And he came back and he showed me this like tiger. It's like a tiger that's about to rip you in two, and it's got like dice and cards or whatever falling out of its mouth or whatever where it ate it up. And so it's a beautiful thing because you work so hard in life to like try to make something, and it's almost so many times in your life you feel like, God damn it, it's like I really wish that would have worked out, or I really wish that would have been a different way. But in the end of it, taking all that time of 5 years paid off because I feel like each thing, like the T-shirt, the vinyl, the CD, digipack, and just everything with it is exactly the painting that I wanted to make.
Yeah. Well, I really, really like the music, so I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a physical copy. And I do really like the t-shirt as well. I love that design with the tiger and the flame
Oh,
that's
you
coming
saw
out behind as
that.
well. Yeah, yeah.
That's cool, man. That's
Yeah, it
awesome.
looks very cool. So I know that you've got some live dates with Today's the Day coming up in May. You're going to be touring and then you're going to be supporting Napalm Death for a few shows, I Hate God, Pentagram as well. And then you're going to be doing this festival in Dansk in Poland on the 5th of June, I think it was,
Boy,
something
you got a
around about
good
then.
memory. Yeah, it is on the 5th of June.
So
Uh,
you're tentatively just coming into Europe. Is there any possibility of more shows in Europe this year?
Yeah, I don't know about whether or not with today's day we'll get to do it because the way the rest of this year is shaping up is we go on tour with the band you just mentioned and play several shows with them. It's not a real long tour, it's only like a couple weeks long. Then we head off for Poland and That's a great billing at the thing in Poland. I believe right before we play is Down and an Electric Wizard, and then we play, I believe, right before Megadeth or something like that.
Wow,
I'm
that's
not
cool.
sure. But you know, all killer bands a lot of them of people I know and whatnot from throughout the years. And then after we come back from that, we're shooting another video for a song called Am I Just Crazy with this guy who I consider a legend in video. His name's Zev Deans. He's done videos for Ghost, DMX, Mastodon, High on Fire. He's just he's just great. I mean, he's just such an amazing video director. And when I told him I was making my first country album, he right away was like, I want to make one for you, you know." And I'm like, dude, I can't even believe you're saying that because of being who you are. Um, but he's coming up here and we're going to shoot a video for that in June. And then end of July, August is when the Mark Cards tour will happen, and that'll be a lengthy tour across all the United States and maybe a little bit of Canada. And then the next move after that, only like a month later or so, we're gonna do a pretty long Today is the Day US tour in October and maybe a bit of Canada. And that's sort of centered around this festival called the Emissions from the Monolith that's in Youngstown, Ohio. Real cool festival I've done before. You know, but I want to get back over to Europe and whatnot. It's been so crazy with the way things have went where we worked on both these albums so long and then they just finally started coming out. Like Never Give In came out last fall. We went on tour for it, then we went on tour for it again in the United States. And then now we're about to go with this short run, followed by a tour for the country thing that's finally coming out. And so now that we've kind of covered the US bases, it'll be nice to get back over because I love the people of Europe, and I've had so many great memories there. I just can't wait to see everybody again soon, you know?
Well, as soon as you are just a little bit closer to the UK, whether it's Czech Republic or Germany or wherever else, I will be there to finally see you on stage.
Thank you, Tom. We'll have to hang, man. We'll go have to go get a shawarma or something. You know, it'd be totally great, dude. You'd be my guest.
That would be awesome. Well, Steve, look, thank you so much for your time. Always a fan of what you do, and it's always great to talk to you. So I hope the album gets a great reception when it comes out. And yeah, I hope all the touring goes well until we next speak.
Well, thanks so much, Tom. And again, it's always an honor when you are in the cards about getting to sit down with you and hang out. Minute Dave told me that, I was like, yes, yes, a real one. I can't wait. It's awesome because he's always like got good questions, great insights, and just in general, I just dig hanging out with you, man, you know?
Thanks, Steve. I really, really appreciate it.